Om Agnir Murta Chakshusi Chandra Suryo Vishaha Shrutrivak Vivitasha Vedaha Vayu Prana Hridayam Vishvamasha Padbayam Prativihi Sarva Bhutantaratmam. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Verily, that one divine being is the indwelling presence in all beings and all things. Fire is its head, the sun and moon its two eyes. The revelation of Scripture is its cosmic mind. Its arms and legs are the four directions. The universe is its heart. The wind is its breath. Music is its voice. And from its feet, the earth has originated. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Nicho Nichanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman Tamatmastam Yenu Pashanti Diraha Tesham Shanti Shashvati Netaresham. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. That one, the eternal amongst all non-eternal things, the intelligence of the most intelligent ones, who, though ever one, nevertheless fulfills the desires of the many. The wise ones realize that one as dwelling in their own self. To them belong peace and to none else. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Vedanta Siddhanta Nirukti Resha Brahmaiva Jivaham Sakalam Jagadcha Akanda Rupa Stiti Reva Moksho Brahmadvitiye Shrutayaha Pramanam. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Is the apt and final conclusion of the Vedanta that all is Brahman. Time, space, living beings, and the world. Living in constant recognition of this fact is what is called enlightenment. Brahman is one without a second, pure and perfect. And the revealed scriptures are the sure and certain proof of this fact. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana, Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karvavahai, Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidveshavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us, may Brahman sustain us, may Brahman, the reality, illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. Here on our Sunday afternoon in Hawaii, we meet to speak about higher intelligence, about spiritual teachings and spirituality. Rather a rare thing to do in this world. We're not prompted in our busy lives to seek out holy company, and in the West it's very difficult to find it. If you've gone to India, which many of you have with me and the SRV Sangha, then you know that it's not that difficult to find holy company. It's just a matter of a loud, noisy, dusty, smoggy cab ride away. And there you are at the foot of some Swami or some Rishi or some great soul who has spent their whole life meditating on divine reality. And the world has taken a back seat. Or as we said this morning in satsang, which was also live streamed, seek thee first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be added unto thee. So before that habit sets in of placing the world before God, the cart before the horse, then we must be rescued, or rescue ourselves would be even better, and seek out holy company, sadhu satsanga, and spend time there. Best if we can do it every day, because the once a week to church syndrome never really worked for us that well. We need to find someone who could transmit us the essence of the teachings, which always happens one-on-one, or in small groups like this. But the essence of transmission of spirituality happens between one soul and another, and that's called Guru Parampara, or transmission of spirituality. And we get that in the atmosphere of Jnana Yoga, or the yoga of wisdom, or sometimes said the yoga of discriminating wisdom, which allows us to separate the wheat from the chaff, as Christ used to say, or the unreal from the real, as Vedanta says. And if we can manage that considerable feat of consciousness, then our awareness will be purged of its weights. Sort of like Sri Ramakrishna said, if you want to go in a ride in a hot air balloon, you have to throw out the sandbags. The hot air balloon is naturally buoyant, isn't it? So these weights that we've taken on, these sandbags of lust, anger, greed, envy, jealousy, pride, shame, avarice, fear, pride of caste, pride of lineage, grief, shame. Should I go on? These are all your playmates at recess in this world. If you can keep them at a minimum, then life can go on in a dharmic way. That is, dharma, that very hard to define word in Vedanta and in Buddhism, which means the taking of vows and precepts, the hearing of certain dharmic teachings from the Dharmakaya, from the field of teachings. We know there's a whole field of nature out there, matter consisting of earth, water, fire, air, and ether, rearranging all the time in various permutations, called objects. And if we can come to know that all of that external world has come from our internal thinking process, and connect the dots in that way, then we have a first step on our spiritual journey. That is, it's called cosmology. To every race has its various cosmology, and the ancient Indians were no different. That is, those rishis of India had established a very profound cosmology upon which they rested. And they had established it, which is why it's lasted so long. You can still hear the truth in the teachings without the slightest effort. You can find a good teacher. The reason it's lasted so long is they based it on what we're studying over the past 4 classes. That is, this is the 4th class under that subtitle called The Devotion of Non-Separation, or in Sanskrit, Ananya Bhakti. Bhakti being devotion, Ananya being a natural state of non-dual abidance. It's not like you're looking to be one with everything. This that oneness was the place from which you came. It's a natural abidance. And so if you're taking the Dharmic teachings and you're trying to refine them, sort of like boiling milk down to an essence, getting rid of all the water, or taking the dross out of gold. If you're doing that refinement process called sadhana, then you will one day come upon that natural state of abidance in you. It's been called by various names in different traditions. Buddha called it nirvana. He got it after sitting many days under the bo tree and separating himself from nature. The father of yoga called it koiloya. Vedanta calls it nirvikalpa. Yoga calls it asampragyata. Zen Buddhism calls it satori. Muslim religion calls it fana. I suppose in the Christian tradition you could say beatific vision. That is some state of oneness. Or definitely, if thine eye be single, you shall know the truth. Or I and my Father are one. No matter where you look in what particular religious tradition, you'll find this natural state of abidance. Non-duality, we're calling it, in this day and age, Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta. That is a principle whose time has come, brought to us most succinctly and most intensely and most lucidly by Swami Vivekananda when he arrived here on our western shores in 1893 to bring us this great teaching. He said, there's no doubt about it, Advaita Vedanta will be the future religion of humanity. That's his prophecy. And so as you sit here, you're sitting here basically under the auspices of Swami Vivekananda, because I would not be here teaching it if it wasn't for him. My teacher taught me, and my teacher learned from Holy Mother and Vivekananda and Brahmananda and other great souls who were alive in the 1800s. So the whole thing has been one lineage succession down to this present moment. And interestingly enough, that present moment is an eternal moment, because there's that state of all abidingness, which is your true nature. There's no time in it. What to speak of time, there's no space in it. That is, space as we assess it by the atomic particle. There has to be particles and time for evolution, and then space provided for evolution, and so time, space, and cause and effect are all there in the sweep of time. But lo and behold, this pure conscious awareness that is your very nature is timeless, spaceless, causeless, deathless, timeless. I said that already. It's eternal, is another word we borrow for it, or it's all-pervasive. It's a state of all-pervasiveness. If you're all-pervasive, then you don't need to go anywhere. There's no space to which you can go when all of space is in your soul. And there's no time when your soul can come and go there, when all of time is actually in your soul. So this mind holds the concepts of time and space, holds the concepts of air, earth, fire, water, and ether in it. And it doesn't take 4,320,000,000 years to create it. I mean, imagine, you can go into dreaming tonight and you can create a world in a matter of minutes. Yeah? A matter of minutes. It's called your dream state. You create and destroy worlds every time you go into sleep at night, and then go into deep sleep. Waking, dreaming, deep sleep, back to dreaming, and back to waking, in one 12-hour period or 8-hour period, or depending on how long you sleep, because the yogis only will sleep 2 or 3 hours a night. You construct the universe of name and form in time and space based on cause and effect, and you dissolve it back into you in deep sleep. And when you wake up, you present it again to yourself, along with all the many cohorts, your friends, your family, humanity, your ancestors, the celestials, the gods and goddesses, all involved in this projection process, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. The in-breath, the held breath, the expelled breath, all happens in a breath. And what happens in the absence of that breath is called kumbhaka, or samadhi, or satori, or nirvana, or sampragata, or nirvikalpa. So that is lying in you behind a series of veils, or sometimes behind a very thin veil. And we've been presenting that truth to you, Advaita Vedanta, under the auspice of what we've called the devotion of non-separation over the last 3 Sundays. The last one Sunday, and then 2 classes that we took before I left on my journey to the West Coast, when we took a month break. And now we're back at it, finishing up this series of class with what's called Ananya Bhakti. So last week we looked at it in terms of various yogas that one practices. So to approach that subject once more, tenderly, gingerly, but in a very lucid way, I'm putting up these 2 very aesthetically pleasing charts in front of you for your consideration. That is, basically here on your left you see this teaching of the Fourfold Presence of God. The way you would learn it if you took Sri Krishna as your teacher and took the Gita as your Bible, and you began to look into great teachings of that nature, you would see basically what's called Adi Daivata, Adi Baudika, Adi Yatma, and Adi Yagya. This fourfold presence of God. Adi means original or primal, or something that's of an original nature. And those 4 words that you put at it after it mean sacrifice, the original sacrificer, the original seed of nature, the original soul, that is this Purusha, and also the original presence. That's evinced here or symbolized by the soul. Here is this beautiful goddess offering a garland of flowers to the approaching Vishnu. Vishnu is riding on Garuda, the dragon bird. Garuda represents prana, something that's a sort of missing link in our understanding in the West. Basically, prana is that energy by which man does not live alone. Man does not live by bread alone. So basically there's another energy inside of food, and another energy we get by eating food, mukhya prana, and an energy that also carries our thoughts, an energy that carries our soul from birth to death and back to earth again in the fetus. That's prana. That's what Christ was referring to when he said, man does not live by bread alone. Lives by this other energy. It's not an atomic particle, it's a pranic particle. And it can't be seen, so people don't believe in it. Nevertheless, my lips are moving, your ears are hearing, my hand is moving, my arm is lifting by the force of this very subtle energy called prana. You might draw a correlation with it right here in Hawaii by using the word mana. We have a Hawaiian word that it means much the same thing, this subtle energy. And lo and behold, in Sanskrit, manas means mind. It's one of the 4-fold composites of the mind. Thinking, intelligence, ego, that is separateness, the sense of separate self, and dual mind itself. Dual mind's always thinking good and bad, pleasure and pain, life and death, virtue and vice, happiness and sorrow, bondage and liberation. The mind is always brooding on these pairs of opposites. Meditation, if it's successful, succeeds at cutting those dualities away and being in a state of oneness. That's called the peace that passes all understanding. So if you can get into that peace of mind in your meditation, in any given day or any given period of sitting, any given zazen, or any given practice of dissolution of the mind stream, all of its thoughts back into its source, then you can get into a state of non-duality and see your true nature. And that's what has been seen by yogis and rishis and saints and seers and sages and siddhas and any other S word that you can possibly think of to fill in those. saviors, if you want. So basically, she is approaching with a great worship to this great soul, the original soul coming out of the ethers, out of the inner ethers, riding on the back of this great Garuda bird, called which is called prana. So you see, she's the Adidaivaka. She represents our soul, our true nature. He's the Adiyagya. He's taking on the body for sacrifice. He's the great sacrifice. And there you see, on all four sides, up, down, sideways, left and right, in all directions, is the presence of Brahman, Adhyatma. We call that word Atman or Brahman, is our word for divine reality. Yes, you can call it in different ways, in different traditions, but the presence of Brahman, or Allah in the Muslim religion, or Tathagata Garbha in Buddhism, or Buddha nature. There are many words for it in different traditions. That's that presence, all-pervasive presence of reality that cannot be denied. Neither can it be separated out. It's always in a homogeneous state. It's not like air, which you can separate into compartments. See, you just take a jar. Oh, I've got some jar separated from the rest of the air. You see, cap it off. It's more like ether, which cannot be displaced. I can move an object, air will displace, but ether will not. So we think of terms of this all-pervading presence more like ether. And if you start studying Sanskrit and you start studying Vedanta, yoga, and other salient systems of Mother India, you'll find that there are 5 different pranas, 5 different energies, 5 different atmospheres that correlate, symbolically enough, with your ancestors, where they went, and where you will go when you pass from the body, and where the seers are holding subtle bodies in order to work with people of earth. Again, more like your dream state. Now, the only other there is the Adi-Bhautika, or Adi-Bhutik, sorry. Adi-Bhuta means nature, or another word for that in Sanskrit is Prakriti. Those 4 are called the Fourfold Presence. Shri Krishna says, the imperishable being, that's Brahman. That's this all-pervading presence everywhere. Its dwelling in the individual body is called Adhyatma. That is, that supreme being or presence. Adi-Buddha pertains to perishable nature. That is, all of the things that you see, taste, touch, hear, and smell are perishable. Whereas this presence that is the experiencer of seeing, tasting, touching, hearing, and smelling is eternal. He clarifies that more when he says, nobody sees Brahman, nobody sees the great being who comes on the prana, you see, in a conscious way, like the wind is blowing scents from different kinds of flowers to different locations. All of a sudden you catch a scent of plumeria on the air, you see. I think in India they call that frangipani. That is that flower, plumeria. Or you catch a sense of tuberose, you catch a scent of gardenia. So you don't know where that's come from, what location that's come from, and neither do you know how it comes or what's brought it to you. They say the Lord is rather like that. It takes the souls into different bodies and takes them away from bodies all the time, and nobody knows how that's working. That is, nobody knows that energy which brings and which sustains and which takes away, which moves constantly, because they're not aware of it. You have to develop subtle senses in order to be aware of that movement of Brahman. Let's move on to this chart about the meditation on the goddess, because that's a great teaching. The Devi Gita from the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam is a section of teaching the quote up here starts it off. It says, "Throughout life, everything is to be done in the light of my great mantra, whose gifts are Guru and all the blessings which naturally come to my devotees. Nothing at all at any time is unattainable to the one who worships the Devi." The Devi is the goddess. So I've extracted from the Devi Bhagavatam this system, you see, this sequence of things. That is, it starts with remembering and envisioning your Guru. So if I were to sit and do meditation, then I would sit and think of my Guru, Swami Sheshananda. And then from there I would think my Guru's Guru. As Swami Sheshananda connects to his teacher, Holy Mother, Sri Sharda Devi. Who does Sri Sharda Devi connect to? Sri Ramakrishna, her husband, her Guru. Who does Sri Ramakrishna connect to? Mother Kali, his ideal. So I'm Guru Pyo Namaha, I'm Parama Guru Pyo Namaha, I'm Para Guru Pyo Namaha, I'm Paramesti Guru Pyo Namaha. That's four stages of the Guru. And therefore ends up in Mother Kali, or Divine Mother. Now I say on the other side, Om Ganeshaya Namaha. Salutations to Ganesha, the elephant-headed god, because he makes everything auspicious. See? So make sure to bring in Ganapati into the equation. And that's why she says, first remember and envision your Guru. Then meditate on my form in the fire of Kundalini in the Muladhara. Do you know what the Muladhara is? Base of the spine. And then the next center is at the genitals. The next center is at the navel. The next center is at the heart, right? The next center is at the throat. Next center is at the third eye, forehead, and then the next center is at the crown. So that's called 7 chakras. And so she wants you to meditate basically in the Muladhara as the fire of Kundalini. Then she says after that, ruminate on the 4 boons. That's why I put this chart up here. Ruminate on the 4 boons. The 4 boons are what Mother grants the soul. Manusyatvam is a human birth. That's a great boon, because there are many other bodies to take besides humans, you might have noticed. Animals, insects, plants, different forms. A human birth is a great boon from the Divine Mother of the Universe. Then she says, 2, if you have a holy company in your life, as we started out saying in the beginning of the class, then you have a second boon. That is, holy company is very rare in people's lives, especially in this day and time and in this Western culture, in America and so forth. Very hard to find holy company, so you find your way to a group of souls who are seeking the highest truth. That's a boon from the Mother. The third is desire for freedom. A desire for freedom is something that you very much want to have. And then a pure mind, Chit Shuddhi, is the 4th. So she says, basically these are in the tradition, in the scriptures. There are 3 boons: human birth, holy company, and desire for freedom. But she said, those could not take you all the way to the goal unless you have a desire for pure mind. If you get a pure mind, if you get Chit Shuddhi, pure mind will be something that is very helpful inside of those 3. So that's why she wants you to ruminate on the 4 boons. Ruminate means to meditate on them. Meditate on these 4 great things. After that, she wants you to meditate on the 5 seats, all situated under her lotus feet. That's why I put these here. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva is the Trinity. Add to that Ishvara or Avatara and Sadashiva, the 4-faced Shiva, you have what's called the 5 seats of the Devi. So you meditate then on the 4 ways in which Divine Mother comes to you, like the Trinity. And this way is another quintuplication that you find is very helpful. Then she says, perform concentrated japa and offer the results to me, the Devi. You know what japa is, I hope. It's, if you have your mala or your rosary, that's japa. You're doing repetitions of the name of the Lord, aren't you? Or the name of the Mother in this case. So she wants you to do concentrated japa and offer the results to her. Then perform puja for me with devotion and with all sacred offerings. So the idea of doing sacred worship is there, not only to her, but to the deities of all my sacred mandala. I mean, that's why I brought a chart along with me like this. This would be a good rendering of how you make offerings to her mandala. A mandala is a circle, right? It says, so it's basically includes all the different deities that you worship upon. The moon, the sun, those are gods and goddesses. And we just chant. The first chant I did today was Agnir Murta Chakshusi Chandra Suryao Vishaha Shrotrivav Vivatasha Vedaha. So fire is his head, the sun and moon is his 2 eyes. So that's how the quote goes. So Chandra, moon, goddess, and Surya, sun, male and female deities are not just orbs in the sky. The orbs in the sky represent the goddesses behind them. So she wants you to make offerings to sun and moon god. Ganesha is there, elephant-headed god, is part of her mandala. Prajapati, the first teacher of men, also the teacher of the gods. Hanuman, the monkey god, is there, the great worshipper of Sita and Ram. Sapta rishis are there, the 7 rishis. That is, the rishis of Bur, Bhuva, Swa, Janaha, Tapaha, Mahar Loka, and Satya Loka or Brahma Loka. Those are all worlds back inside. They're all presided over by one of the 7 rishis. So the Sapta rishis are there to worship. Lord Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva are there, the Trinity as we said. Indra, the god of gods. Agni, the god of fire. Vayu, the god of wind or air. Varuna and the gods of earth and water. Those are all a sort of idea of a mandala that are all there inside of Divine Mother reality. Even down here you see, then it comes down to the earth, you have Krishna and Arjuna there on the battlefield. Then you have an image like this that has to do with Ishvara. That's this word is probably here. There it is, Ishvara. So that would be an idea of make offerings to all the deities and make offerings to the deities of my sacred mandala. So she wants you to do puja, worship with devotion and with sacred offerings. The West is maybe a little bit clueless about that. There have been even great stotrams written. This is called the worship of my mind, the worship that goes on in my mind, Manasa Puja. Atmatvam giri jamati sahacharaha pranaha sariram griham puja he vishayopaboga charana nidra samadhi sthiti sancharaha padayoha pradakshina vidhi stotrani sarva giro. Yad yat karma karomi tata dikilam shambho tavaradanam. It goes on like that, on and on. What is it saying? This is my mental worship. In my mind I construct a huge canopy in order to shade you from the day's heat. I wave before thee a precious fan dipped in scented sandal water to provide a cool breeze for thy beauteous form. You take a fan, dip it in sandal water, and you fan the deity. You fan the Lord. So it has both this cool breeze and this wonderful scent. Now let the dancers come. Let the musicians and the drums sound for your delight. Let the kirtan resound through the four quarters. The singing of thy praises duly commenced. So you offer music. And now I come and prostrate myself at thy lotus feet, while you pronounce the scriptures with the aid of a clear looking glass. Thus, O Lord, who is a veritable ocean of mercy, do you accept my inner worship. So you're doing this huge worship. You do it externally and you do it in your mind too. Now I feed you with 5 types of nutritious foods, including ripe bananas, sweet curd, green vegetables. Fresh water tinged with honey and purified with camphor scent slakes thy thirst. I offer you sacred payasam, that's the rice pudding, and this will complete the meal. Served to thee on a polished, shining bowl inlaid with gold and mother of pearl. Spiced betel leaves I also now offer for your enjoyment, and all of these I have prepared mentally with great devotion, so please accept my humble worship. So this is what she wants you to do. Perform concentrated japa, offer the results, then perform puja, worship with devotion, and then make all the offerings to all the gods. So if you see a good puja going on, you know what's happening there inside the mind of the worship. It's a manasa puja, it's a mental worship that's going on. And you also can enact it externally. See? So this is a part of what she wants you to do daily in your meditation of her. This is called the Devi Gita. There are many Gitas. This is one of the Gitas of songs that's offered to the Divine Mother. What else does she want? Recite my many names and read my Upanishads. So now you find the devotion of non-separation there, don't you? You find both wings of the bird. She wants you to do the worship, the puja to the deities, and then she wants you to study. That's the one wing of the bird, the bhakti. And then she wants you to read the Upanishads, the wisdom scriptures, and make those an offering too. Now, after you've done that, get up and dance and sing hymns. Dance joyfully and sing hymns to her. Then she wants you to feed the holy, the hungry, and the devotees. Go out there and you find holy people and you serve them with food. You offer food to them. And then you find the poor and you offer them food. The holy and the hungry both. And then you offer food to the devotees, because to feed the devotees is one of the greatest accruers of merit you can do. If you want to cook food for the devotees, then that accrues a lot of merit for you to feed her devotees. Now she wants you to perceive youth, the aged, the poor, and the public all as forms of me. You go out and you see God in the youthful people, and in the aged people, in the poor people, and in public places and public people. She wants you to see God in all those forms. She wants you to see her in them. The devotion of non-separation, right? You have devotion, wisdom, action, those 3 yogas in which we just sang about, which were all brought together by Sri Ramakrishna in his person. You go and practice those, and you see the goddess in everything. Therefore, you're doing the devotion of non-separation. You're bringing everything into one. It's a great practice. It's a great yoga. It's a great yagya. Sacrifice, union, all of those are going on. Finally, you perform all actions in the light of her mantra. And you meditate then at the 1,000-petaled lotus at the crown of the head. And so she says that kind of liberation, you see, is going on. Meditate in the feet, on the fire of Kundalini, in her base, with her mantra, in tandem with all the chakras, those 7, I think I brought something about that too. Yeah. There's a chart basically about the chakras, you see. Muladhara is the base of the spine. It goes with earth. Swadhisthana is the generative organs. It goes with water, or Varuna, the god of water. So it has a center, a space inside, which is associated with your spine, but it's not your spine, of course. Your spine centers are vortexes that have to do with the kingdoms of heaven within you. There are these lokas, these worlds which the rishis preside over, the sapta rishis. They're all inside of you, and the spine, the 7 centers also associate or correspond with these 7 inner worlds. So Muladhara goes with Lord Brahma, goes with the earth plane at the base of the spine. Svadhisthana goes with the generative organs. Water, or the god Varuna, or the element of water. The element of fire is Manipura. It's the navel chakra, the 3rd center. It goes with Agni, god of fire. Anahata is next at the heart. It has Isha, or one of those chosen ideal, that is Ishtam. It goes with air. Vishuddha is the throat chakra, has ether, and it has Sadashiva, one of those seats of the goddess, you see, as its deity. They're all making these connections, you see. It's where she likes to be, and the heart and throat centers is where she likes to be. So you see earth, water, fire, air, and ether, all corresponding with Brahma, Varuna, Agni, Isha, and Sadashiva, and all happens corresponding with the base of the spine, generative organs, navel, heart, and throat. And there so you have the first 5 chakras. Then finally you have the forehead. Shambhu is Shiva. Shambhu, Sada Shiva. Those are forms of Shiva. And Agya, of course, is the 3rd eye, the wisdom eye. To think that its wisdom eye is only corresponding to the Indian religion alone. I didn't bring it, but there's a whole research I did on the 3rd eye, which happens to be found in 5 or 6 different religions of the world. It mentions the 3rd eye chakra. If thine eye be single, you should know the truth. That's Christianity. Buddha said, I have the Dharma eye within me. So Buddha also knows about the 3rd eye. And then Krishna says, Jnana Chakshu, if you open the Jnana Chakshu, you shall know the truth. So that means Jnana, wisdom, Chakshu, eye. If you open your wisdom eye, then you will see me. So the 3rd eye corresponds in many different religions. Also there's a reference to it in the Tao, the Ching. It happens to, and there it's called the Golden Gateway, the Golden Gateway. That is, a man has 2 eyes, and another man's walking beside him has 2 eyes, and his friend has 2 eyes, but where's the real eye? It's in the forehead. So a reference to there in Taoism. So in 4 or 5 different religions there's reference to the 3rd eye, not just in Indian religion. You see these images with the 3rd eye open all the time. You see these pictures of Shiva with a 3rd eye, or Kali with a 3rd eye. But it's there in all religions. So this idea of the 7 chakras, or 7 paradises, or 7 lands within you, is universal and is common amongst many of the religions. All the religions know about it. Sahasrara, of course, there she is, Parashakti, whom we're talking about here, the Divine Mother. She presides over that highest crown chakra. That's where she likes to unite with Shiva. She moves to the Sahasrara, the crown of the head, or where there is 1,000 petals. Here there were 2 petals at the forehead, 16 at the throat, 12 at the heart, 10 at the navel, 6 at the genital organs, and 4 at the base of the spine. Petals means, and sometimes you see them, I don't think I have a representation here, but there are these diagrams or mandalas and mudras that go with these various 4-petaled, 6-petaled, 8-petaled, 1,000-petaled lotuses. The petals really mean how many worlds are there, how many regions are there inside of that. So you can see how many regions there are at the crown, associated with the crown of the head. 1,000-petaled lotus means there are just an infinite amount of inner subtle regions where souls sport in consciousness. So it's a very, of course, esoteric system, but also not that hard to make connections with if you look into it and study upon it. So basically that all comes out of this Devi Gita. I took it and I made a new translation of it. If we have time, I can read a little bit from it before we take our break. It's very beautiful. I'll just give you a taste of it. Rise up, my noble child. She's talking to you. Rise up, my noble child, from your deep sleep state each morning, and meditate with a loving heart and peaceful mind on my 1,000-petaled seat at the crown of the head. At this auspicious time, think fondly of your Guru. First step she wants you to do. So that's why I've taught some of you, when you sit for meditation, I'm Guru, and so you think of your teacher. And then I'm Paramaguru, you think of your teacher's teacher. Then I'm Paraparaguru, you think of your teacher's teacher's teacher. And then I'm Paramesti, you think of the Divine Mother, who is the teacher of all. So you think of those levels of teacher, of Guru, that you have taken refuge in. So at this auspicious time, think reverently of your Guru, the epitome of graciousness, side by side with his Shakti. Think about his divine consort. And bow down to him and her with offerings of heartfelt love. After praying for their welfare, envision me, the highest Shakti, the Kundalini Devi, and perpetuate me with these words. She gives you a prayer to say. I take complete and utter refuge in thee, O Devi Kundalini, thou inwards and upwards rising consciousness, who is supreme, who is the goddess of the Brahmarandra, that is the world of Brahman, the shining gateway into the infinite Brahman, the lofty aperture out of which the illumined soul takes flight at the auspicious time of departing the body. Now, that is the opening of the third eye. When the illumined soul leaves the body, it sees the light coming from the third eye and moves there. And the third eye opens, and the soul goes through that aperture. That aperture is not outward, it's inward. So you'll actually see the third eye opening. And it's like clouds rolling back. In a perfect cylinder, you'll see a distant world, and the light will be there, and you exit out of that third eye. If you can manage that, it's a very high way of exiting out of the body. Ordinary people exit out of these lower chakras because they're going to come back to the realm of the fetus. So they're going to come back into the realm of the ancestors. That's why these Manipura. It's the navel. That's the third chakra. And that has to do with food, digestion of food. That has to do with the fetus. It has to do with coming in and out of the body. So that will be how a soul will exit in and out of the body who's going to be reborn again in the realms of heaven. Heaven, earth, and hell, they call it. But if you can open the heart chakra by meditating on it, and become aware of this throat chakra where she dwells, and also open the third eye, then the soul can exit out of that third eye at the time of death. So she wants you to meditate there and calls it the shining gateway to the infinite Brahman, the lofty aperture out of which the soul takes flight at the auspicious time of departing the body. He calls death auspicious, the auspicious time of leaving the body. After this, my precious child, focus your awareness swiftly on the ever blissful form of mine abiding in the root chakra as I dance amidst the fire of Kula Kundalini there, which dwells at the very root and core of your existence. Upon completion of this profound meditation, take thy bath, perform thy duties with full awareness, then return to thy seat with a mind to undertake my worship, entering divine sankalpa with sheer determination to satisfy me. Take up the 5 great elements, earth, water, fire, air, and earth, and ether, and render them pure for my puja, performing lovingly the sacred mudras, mantras, and yasas which were taught to you by your guru. Enter the peace sublime. Recall me with divine memory, repeat my mantra, and let it percolate in your heart in divine order with all its matras. That's basically, she's taking you through this whole process. You're now meditating on her chakras, and then you're meditating on the mantra, right? With all its matras. Matras means parts. Om consists of 3 matras, A, U, and M. So you meditate on A, U, and M. A means your waking state, U means your dreaming state, M means your deep sleep state. So she wants you to meditate on those after you've become peacefully situated in your asana. This is your asana, sitting cross-legged like this. If you sit cross-legged, immediately the Muladhara is spread open. You see, so that this tripod stance opens up Kula Kundalini, opens up that root chakra, and consciousness can now, energy can now begin to come up to these higher chakras. So meditating in this stance is a very auspicious way. So I just read you the first 6 verses of the Devi Gita. So to give you a little idea, there are about 15 more slokas that you can read if you go and find, either read the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, or you can read about it in the books on Kundalini Yoga that SRV has put out. But that helps you to understand this whole series of levels of practicing, which brings in ideas like the 7 chakras, the mantra, and the desire for liberation. She says, at that time when the divine desire for freedom comes, meditate upon me. And there are other songs too that have that beautiful sentiment. I can sing you one about Divine Mother. She says, that is, this Ram Prasad, this great poet, songwriter, sings, Kali, Kali Borashan, Kali, Kali Borashan, Karapada Jan, Namamrita Karapada say it very nicely. He says, the ebb and flow of time passes unnoticed, while life's experiences are spent in vain. At any time, death, the dissolver of name and form, can draw near and end your life's work with one fatal blow. It is time to heed the mother's minstrel, who sings solemnly that repeating Kali's name destroys the illusion of death. You can attain eternal life by repeating Mother's name and meditating upon her. So she says, at that auspicious time, when the desire for liberation suddenly rises with you, imbibe the nectar of Kali's timeless awareness and taste immortality. So that's when that moment of mumukshutvam, the desire for liberation, suddenly rises in you, sit quickly and meditate on Mother Kali, and she'll give you this teaching of how to dissolve death, how to see through the illusion of death. And that's what the song is saying. So you see somebody who learned music and learned how to sing, what kind of lyrics he put into his song. He's teaching you divine lyrics. He wants to teach you about the illusion of death and how Mother Kali destroys death. So with that beautiful sentiment, we can take our break and meditate a little bit on these sentiments. Om Devim Prasanam Pranatarti Hantrim Yogindra Pujam Yugadharma Patram Tam Sharadam Bhakti Vijnana Datram Dayaswarupam Pranamami Nityam. O Sharada, propitious goddess, killer of misery in souls resigned, savior of religion in every age, by saints and sages worshipped, O mother kind, give us love and wisdom thou, O grace incarnate, to thee we bow. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om Tat Sat.
Shakti Swarupini, Shanti Swarupini, Sharada Devi Namostute. Matri Swarupini, Sneha Swarupini, Mangala Dayini Namostute. Bhakti Swarupini, Bhava Swarupini, Mukti Pradayini Namostute. Kama Saharini, Karunya Rupini, Koivaya Dayini